Hello all, welcome to Universal Group of Institutions. Welcome to our very special series on reinterpretation of NCRTs. In our previous videos, we have reinterpreted the chapter number 1 of ninth NCRT, where we have clearly even though the NCRT was not just discussing about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, or it was not discussing something called as the National Food Security Mission, or it was not discussing a program called as the PL 480 program, through which we were procuring food grains from the United States of America, which the President Kennedy dubbed it as the Food for Peace program. Similarly, we have also analyzed, the in the first chapter, the budget associated with the Ministry of Rural Development, the which program was getting what amount of money as well. In this particular video lecture, we are going to start with the second chapter called as the People as Resource. Same thing or a same modality will be followed here as well, where we are going to reinterpret this particular chapter as well, called as the People as a Resource. The first thing that needs to be addressed is what exactly a resource is. First and foremost, resource is something that is useful for us. Resource is something that adds value in the economic growth or the development of a country. We refer gold as a resource, we refer iron as a resource, we in fact called a land as a resource. In this particular chapter, we are going to look at why people are also the resource. Okay, so the whole chapter starts with a questionnaire between the two students. You can see here very clearly, what is a human resource. Is it like a land or the labor? Okay, or it is more than that. What he replies, what is human capital? Is it like a rupee, paise or dollar? It is more than that. That means the human, as a he or she adds more value than even any natural resource can add. So that later the importance of the human as a resource has been explained with two tales, the tales of two friends, the story of Sakal and Vilas. The Sakal as a boy was interested in studies, where his both parents, mother Sheila and father Bhuta, even though mother Sheila was looking after the household, the chores, whereas Bhuta was working as agricultural labor in the landlords for, the land. But his parents, have motivated, forced him to attend the school. Plus Vilas, the Sakal as a boy was also interested. He went on to pursue the vocational education in the computers. Then he joins the private firms, where he designs a software which where the employer rewards him. Look at, he understood the importance of education, he received it, he too was interested in it. He was able to contribute more. Look at this story of his friend called as the Vilas. The Vilas father, Mr. Mahesh, he passed away when Vilas was just a 2-year old. As a result, Vilas' mother Geeta looked after the family. Vilas, as a child, was not interested in the education. Vilas was suffering from the arthritis. The family's income was so low that Geeta, never took him to the doctor because there was no money at all. As a result, his productivity declined due to the health. On top of that, Vilas was not interested in school. After few years, Geeta also fell ill. As a result, it was Vilas who started to look after the family by selling the fish. Look at the story of the two friends. One who was able to contribute more, or he was earning more because he received the formal education. Another one was contributing less, where because he was not interested in the education, as well as he never received it as well. Okay, now what it clearly shows is, the with the formal education, the quality of the Sakal has increased. As a result, his education added quality of labor, This enhanced the total productivity of the nation or the first firm, then ultimately it had a positive impact on the nation as well. Yes, no doubt. I mean, the Vilas is also contributing, but the contribution of Vilas happens to be the less to the economy than the Sakal's contribution. So this, through this story, they clearly highlights the importance of human as a resource, how the humans can add value to the nation's development. Okay, or if you look at the, the stories of countries like Japan, I mean, which was the first nation, first Asian to get industrialized, or if you look at the country like a South Korea, which was, heavily destroyed, damaged, devastated after the Korean War, which, I mean, which happened nearly for a year, which, I mean, left many people, under the poverty. The nation's economy was destroyed and all. But we see today, I mean, whenever somebody says South Korea, we think about all those automobile giants, all those, the consumer electronic giants like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, the so all that come from that small tiny country like South Korea. All this has happened the in South Korea because they understood the importance of the humans and how the humans can contribute. Look at even something, a small island nation called as the Taiwan. I mean, even though many others may not recognize it as a country, but if you look at the success stories of all the Southeast Asian nations or the East Asian nations, the one thing is very clear: the humans can contribute to the nation's economic development if sustained investments have been made in the health and education. So as a result, in this particular chapter there are two themes that are present here. One is the health, another one is the education. So moving further, they are trying to understand about the economic activities by the men and women. So what is economic activity? You can see economic activities are those, I mean, which add value to the national income will be classified as the economic activity. A woman working or taking care of the family is non-economic activity because that is not adding value to the national income. This is one of the, biggest criticism of the GDP as well, because GDP does not take into account such activities, even though the women are engaged in that particular activity for more than, 8 to 9 hours a day, but still those activities are not considered as a part of the GDP calculation. So the first thing that you need to remember is the economic activities. What are economic activities? Economic activities are those which add value to the national income. These economic activities are further classified into two, that is the market activity and the non-market activity. What are market activity? Market activities involve, remember here very clearly, remuneration to anyone who performs, that is activity performed for a pay or profit. These include production of goods or services, including the government service as well. That means market activity involve remuneration. Market activity, involves, I mean, it is performed either for the pay or the profit. Same, the mother looking after family, I mean, a sister looking after the family does not form the part of the market activity. But a nurse who is taking care of the, elderly couple, but that is called as the economic activity because in return she is going to get the salary. That is, these are the two activities called as the activities and the non-market activity. What are the non-market activity? The activities for the self-consumption. Farmer who has grown rice, but 75% of the production has been consumed by the family itself, that amount will be the non-market activity. 25% of by selling it, which he got the, the profit or the pay, that will be accounted as the economic, sorry, the market activity. Now moving further, that is what is discussed here is the theme called as the education, which clearly, is one of the key indicator associated with the quality of the population. So as we clearly understood through the story of the Sakal and the Vilas, so the what is the reinterpretation that needs to be done associated with the education? The first and foremost, Education under seventh schedule is a matter of a concurrent list. Yes, you heard it correctly. Education falls under concurrent list. Prior to 42nd amendment, education used to be the part of the state list. If you look at the one, the concurrent list, I mean, since the 1950, that is since the day the original constitution enforced, the concurrent list has enhanced or enlarged, whereas the state list has shrunk. Yes, the concurrent list has enhanced and the state list has shrunk. So through the Swarna Singh committee recommendation, the union government at that time, that is the under the prime ministership of Miss Indira Gandhi, has decided to place the education from the state list to the concurrent list. That is very important from the examinations point of view, that needs to be remembered. Second one, that is the reinterpretation, is the trends with regard to the literacy rate. See, when India gained independence, just 1 by 6th of the population was illiterate. Yes, the 16% of the population was literate. The point number one. The second aspect that you need to remember, who is considered as a literate? I mean, going by the definition that was coined by the 1991 census itself, the percentage of population who is above the age of a 7 year or above the age of a 7 year, who is able to read and write in any language, will be called as the literate. Yes, the individual with the age of 7 or above the age of a 7 will be called as a literate. He or she should be able to read and write in any language. Okay, so literacy rate does not mean that the individual must spend time in the formal education system. No, if they have a capability to read and write in any language, then they will be called as the literate. The Now I have a question for you, which I want you to comment in the uh, comment section. What happens to the children who are below the age of a 7? Will they form as the part of illiterates, or will they never be considered as a the to calculate the literacy rate? That is when you are going to understand the two concepts, something called as the crude literacy rate and the effective literacy rate, which I'm going to discuss in the next class based upon your comments. Okay, now moving further, that is the one more reinterpretation. See, what has the government done? I mean, if you look at here from 51 to 2017, how the literacy rate has increased over a period of a time. So what the government has done, government has attached a greater importance to the primary education. Government has attached a greater importance to the secondary education. So government has made a sustained investments in the education, regardless of the political party. I mean, whichever political party were in the of formed the government, every government successively has invested in the educational sector. Central government runs a special schools for the the rural uh, children, something called as the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, or there is a even schools for the tribal children. So due to all these measures, the government is able to enhance the literacy rate. So reinterpretation part here involves, that is the how much amount of money that the government invests towards the education. Can you see here this one particular where I'm analyzing the union budget of 2025-26, how much amount of money the government has allotted for the education? That is, in this particular budget, union government has allotted 1.28 lakh crore of 50.65 lakh crore. That means barely 2.5% of the total budget. I'm talking about the total budget is being spent towards the education. So if you look at the defense and all, defense has got 6.8 lakh. The others, like the health or the rural development, which has got the 1 lakh 90,000 crore. Education has got 1,28,000 crore, which is 2.5% of the total budget, which is very important indicator that needs to be remembered. Within this 1,28,000 crore, if you look at the further analysis, I mean, can you see here? Spending on education as a share of union budget has seen a decline. Successively, it is not declining, because these are the kind of questions that UPSC keeps on asking, saying that the spending on education as a share of budget has consistently declined. No, you can see here it has increased, declined, increased, declined. Can you see here? 15, 16, it was somewhere around 3.5%. Then it has increased to a 3.7. Then it has come down. Again, it has been coming down. Then we see in the year 23, 24, it has increased a bit. Right now, again, it has come down to something called as the 2.53 percentage. So there is not a consistent increase, or there is no consistent decline. That you need to remember, which is very, very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Of the 1.28 lakh crore, where does it goes? The Ministry of Education has two important departments. One is the Department of School Education, that is the elementary school and elementary education. Another one is the Department of Higher Education. If you look at the 1,28,000 crore, of that 1,28,000 crore, the 78,000 crore, that is nearly 61% of the money goes where? That is the primary education, okay, school education. Another 39%, where does it go? It goes to the higher education. Again, very important from the examinations perspective. Which department gets the more money? That is the Department of School Education. So that is the next. If you look at the another aspects that you need to remember, of these, which are the department that is within the Department of the school education, which is the one that is getting more money, that happens to be the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, even which the NCERT is talking about. That is where the through the government, something called as the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, I mean, wants to comprehensively change the face of the school education itself. So what is the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan? Let us look at the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. This particular Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan was launched in the year 2018. Yes, it was launched in the year 2018. This is a flagship program of Department of School Education and Literacy. What are the objectives? You can see here very clearly. First one, supporting the states to implement the NEP, National Education Policy. That is National Education Policy, not New Education Policy. Second one, bridging the social and the gender gaps. We see the literacy rate among SC ST is is on a little on a lower side in comparison with the other backward class or the upper caste. Similarly, there is the division between the men and women literacy rate. You can see the very clearly in this particular chart, the literacy rate of men and the literacy rate of women, even though the gap is declining over a period of time, no doubt at all, but you can see still to the day the gap exists around the 16.6 is the current gap that is going by the 2011 census. So that is what the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan wants to bridge, the gap that is existing. The other one, the strengthening the teacher training, because this particular scheme has been, I mean, it's product of the three schemes that were merged, and that were, one happens to be the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, RMSA, which we used to call it as, and other teacher educational training programs. For you, I have just summed up in a very simple one. Can you see here? It was by merging Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, and the teacher education. Which year? 2018. That you need to remember very, very clearly. What are the ideas? Whole I said, one is the enhance the school management and the teaching practices, effective quality education, universal equity, that is between the different social groups, which I have explained, SC STs, OBCs, I mean between the men and women, there is boys and girls. Quality, you need to maintain the quality education that must be given. This is not just about the increasing the literacy rate, no. Okay, then it has to comply with the RTE, right to education, vocalization. I mean, if you start giving more and more vocal courses training, that ultimately enhances the employability of the once the child is going to attain the age of the working age. Similarly, teachers plays a very important role. So teacher needs to be also be upskilling must happen. Moreover, this is an era of a technology must be integrated into the teaching itself. So this is what the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan talks about. So going further, that is the going further reinterpretation, that what you need to remember the is, till now what we have discussed, till now we have seen that how much government is spending just 2.5% of the the budget. If you go by the national education policy, the national education policy 2020 says that ideally we should be spending 6% of the GDP, but that is not happening in our case. In our case, the cumulative spending happening between the around the 4.6% of the GDP, both by the union government and the states government together. And moreover, the problem with the Indian education system that happens to be the gross enrollment ratios are declining. I mean, declining as we progress from a primary to the higher education. As you can see here from the figure 3 itself, which is clearly outlined. For primary, the gross enrollment ratio is 93%. Upper primary class 6 to 8, 90%. Look at for the higher secondary, that is only 56%. And moreover, the mean years of schooling, that happens to be only 6.6 years in India. That is again a one more alarming one. Again, I have a question for you. You just need to comment what is the mean years of schooling, what is the expected years of schooling, that I want you to comment, which I'm going to discuss again these the homeworks in the next video session. You can see how the mean years of schooling are very less in comparison with the USA 13.6, UK 13.4, South Africa 11.6. And moreover, if you look at as a percentage of GDP, we do spend very less. I mean, look at India, which is spending 4.6, as I said very clearly. Look at Japan, 7.43 percentage. Look at China, our competitor, 6.13. Look at US, 6 point. The one thing that we need to understand, you might think that okay, China is spending 6%, we are spending only 4.6. There is a relatively low gap. This is the size of the GDP. What is the size of the China's GDP? There is somewhere around the 19 trillion. US happens to be the $30 trillion economy. Moreover, look at the size of the population. US has a size of 35 crore, whereas India has a size of 1.5 crore. So, I mean, even if not everyone is of that 1.5 billion people are entering, sorry, 150 crore people. Not everyone is going to the school, but still we have a significant number of students who are below the age of 18 or below the age of 15 who are right now in our school. So if government expects to produce a quality workforce in the future, they have to right now target the children itself. This is again very important from the mains examinations perspective. So this is what I call it as the reinterpretation of NCRTs. In this particular theme, just I'm going to discuss about the education itself. So what have been discussed till now, let me sum up very quickly. The first aspect, education is a matter of a concurrent list. How much are we spending as a percentage of the budget? That is the budget, not the GDP. As a size of the budget, we are spending somewhere around 2.53% of the total budget. Okay, even if you are not able to remember the exact date of 1.2 lakh crore, that's okay, but remember that our spending is just 2.53% of the budget. Okay, and how many departments that we have in the Ministry of Education? Two. Which department is getting the more amount of money? There is a department of the school education, where we have seen very clearly 61% of the money is going there. And the gross enrollment ratios are on a constant I mean, it declines as we move further. What is a gross enrollment ratio? It measures the total number of enrollment in a specific education level regardless of age as a percentage of the population that is officially of the expected age for that level. So since regardless of the age that has been taken, so sometimes the gross enrollment ratio can cross 100% as well. Sometimes the gross enrollment ratio for age specific is also calculated, but generally gross enrollment ratio is calculated regardless of the age. We look at the gross enrollment ratio at the level of education, whether it is a primary, whether it is a lower secondary or the higher secondary or the higher primary. So then we looked at the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, which was launched in 2018. It was by combining the three schemes that were existing, something like the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and all, and the RMSA and the teacher education programs were clubbed, and further moving to the one, what was the objective to the com- follow according to the RTE, Right to Education 2009. So all such things were discussed in this particular video session. Do like, do share. I mean, if you have any concern, do let us know in the comment section, and do stay tuned where we are going to discuss the next theme that is being discussed here called as the health. Thank you.